Well, good afternoon, everyone, and greetings from Sleep Expo Middle East. Now, as part of the ongoing knowledge series, Sleep Expo Middle East has been conducting webinars for the growing industry every month. Now, over the last few sessions, we have discussed a variety of topics that have impacted the mattress manufacturers in the region. Now, today we are here to talk about a growing and pressing issue, and a rather interesting one as well. Now, as society and businesses alike have continued to realize the crucial need to integrate the environmentally friendly practices and priorities, such as corporate social responsibility initiatives and more effective waste disposal, it kind of begs the question, who should be responsible for the product once it is no longer useful to the consumer? Now, more often than not, the answer for many businesses is that the responsibility of proper disposal is kind of forced onto the consumer with very little accountability on the producer for the product life cycle itself. However, in the recent years, there's been a kind of a transfer of responsibility that has occurred. Now, putting the onus of the post-consumer phase back onto the manufacturers and distributors alike. Now, that's what we're highlighting here today. One, the need for extended producer responsibility, and two, the way we can improve the circularity of mattress production. Now, in today's panel,
I'm able to hear them, but
Great. I think we have our third speaker on board as well. So in today's panel, we have with us Mr. Frederic Lawat, the MD of European Bedding Industries Association. And joining us shortly in the process is Mr. Srinivasan Sundaresan, the Secretary of Indian Sleep Products Federation. And also here with us today is Ms. Lucy Porcelli, the Business Sustainability Leader from Dow Chemicals. So welcome, panel. And thank you so much for taking time out for us today.
Thank you for the invitation.
Hello, everyone. Thank you.
Great. So before we start off the discussion, I'd like to inform our audience out here and encourage them to post your questions in the question column that you can see so that we can address it during the course of the discussion and keep this as interactive as possible. Right? So, Mr. Srinivasan, are you able to hear me clearly?
Yeah, I can hear you, madam.
Okay, yeah. Great. Yeah. Not an issue. So let's start off the discussion. So we have, as I said, three very interesting members who are from three very varied markets. So I would like to start the discussion with all of you to know how accepting has each of your regions been to EPR schemes. So Mr. Frederic, if you would like to start.
Okay. First of all, thank you for the opportunity to talk on this very interesting topic. It's one of the very hot topics that is currently on many tables. So EPR, Extended Producer Responsibility Schemes, are at European level a very hot topic. There is the European Green Deal that we all know. There are the Circular Economy Action Plans, and more recently the Sustainable Products Initiatives that will lead to some legislative proposals before the end of the year on sustainability, durability of products. European Commission has also in the past already stated that that extended producer responsibility schemes are a very efficient tool for waste management. I mentioned the Sustainable Products Initiatives already. It's an initiative launched by the European Commission that aims at making products more sustainable, increase recycling content, and here furniture, including mattresses, is considered as a priority product. So there are a lot of pressures on the market to the EPR scheme. So it's in this regard that we as EBA published a state of play study on where we are in different countries on extended producer responsibility schemes. And this is a topic that will not go away. We see an increasing pressure from European authorities, national and regional authorities, but also from consumers and, of course, from the company themselves on this topic. So this will not go away.
Right. And Mr. Srinivasan, if you can give us a brief as to how the Indian market has kind of accepted or is accepting the entire concept of EPR as well.
Yeah. Good evening, everybody. On behalf of Indian Sleep Products Federation, I extend my warm greetings and I express my sincere thanks for the organizers for organizing this wonderful webinar. Fortunately, my camera is not connecting to the platform. I'm sorry that for that. See, in Indian market, the EPR schemes is slowly coming up. You see, the government has laid some guidelines, but not laid a law. So on our side, the Indian Sleep Products Federation, we have proactively taken a lot of steps to the last several months. Slowly, we have conducted several seminars, workshops, keeping in fact that two things are important. That one is we take care of the planet Earth. That we have to worry. See, our production is around 20 million units are being produced per year, and we want to save at least 500,000 to be reprocessed or reused in the course. The second thing is keeping in view of the material usage, that material energy should be recaptured and reused. So these two are major objectives, and in detail, we will give a description in the course of the time. So the government is taking a lot of initiatives, and on our part, we are making first awareness program, and all our stakeholders have high interest and commitment to this project.
Right. And thank you so much, Mr. Srinivasan. And Ms. Lucy, coming to you, I mean, you are handling quite a varied number of markets as well. So if you can give us some insight into, the Middle East and Africa in particular.
Thank you, and hello, everyone. I think it was already greatly covered, the European and the Indian market. So let me focus a bit more on the Middle East and Africa. I think it's very difficult to generalize and set one trend about how the EPR schemes are accepted there. I would almost argue that it might be a bit too early to discuss the EPR schemes, but we already see a great effort from the foam producers in the region, who is looking constantly on improving and making the mechanical recycling of polyurethanes even more accepted and at the larger scales. Of course, mechanical recycling has its advantages and disadvantages, but I think it's important that we encourage more and more of the mechanical recycling happening, because first, it generates the value for the mattress producers, but it also helps to keep avoiding the waste from the environment. That said, I still think that there will be a need, and there will be appetite coming quickly from the region for the EPR schemes. And we believe it now that EPRs can become viable and transparent way to ensure the sufficient and focused funding to develop the waste management systems in the future.
Right. Thank you so much. And coming to you, Mr. Frederick, now I believe that EBIA has conducted a few studies on EPR schemes. So can you shed some light on the kind of findings that you have received, and also how they have kind of helped manufacturers or producers out there?
Okay, thank you. We have indeed carried out last year quite an extensive study on EPR schemes and the state of play in different European countries. What we wanted to know is the historic stock of mattresses that are available. What are the market conditions? We wanted to know more about the state of play of EPR schemes, and we also wanted to know more of the risk and opportunities when such a scheme was introduced. It's quite an extensive study that was carried out by an independent consultant. And we know that for the time being, there are two EPR schemes that are mandatory on the European market, and many countries or even regions in certain countries that are discussing about implementing one as well. We know that only France has quite extensive experiences with EPR scheme. We know that Ecomobilier has been active already for, 7 or 8 years, and Belgium only started beginning of this year with a mandatory EPR scheme. And we see that from the experience in France, we see that one advantage of Ecomobilier and the mandatory PR scheme is that it has led to the expansion of dismantling sites. It's quite an important thing. There are now, if I'm not mistaken, 7 dismantling sites in France, and that's an important element. In France, it is claimed that 70 to 75% of mattresses are recycled. But we see that half of that are recovered, and the rest are recovered as a material, while the rest goes to energy recovery. Based on the figures, we see that in France, 85% of all household mattresses are being collected, while in the past, vast majority of that, before Ecomobilier, all that vast majority went to landfill. So it really has had an impact, at least in collecting old mattresses.
Right. So thank you so much for that insight. In fact, Mr. Srinivasan, you were telling us that how things are gradually evolving in the Indian market. So if you can give us some insight as to how these kind of initiatives have helped producers and manufacturers in India.
Yeah. Thanks, madam. See, first we have made a pilot study of this, and we have tied up with an agency. We are going to have a trial for about from 5 cities. There are established people who can collect their used materials and then send it to the appropriate recycling centers with all hygiene and protection, so that there's no contamination. And for this, we are making a pilot study. So more important thing here we are focusing is to make the awareness for the consumers. You see, in India, what people feel that they use for generations, my grandfather's bed and my father's bed, people do not try to part with that. So now that lot of awareness has been created that you should use the bed only for 5 to 7 years or thing, and there's a need for the change and the need for not dumping it out anywhere to care for the planet Earth. So in these activities we are there, and government is giving guidelines in supporting the industry by collecting all the used material to the recycling center. So for the transport, they are trying to help us. So these are the basic things we have done so far, and we are yet to make further progress.
Thank you so much. Lucy, coming to you, I mean, I know Dow Chemical has done quite a bit with regards to EPR, especially the Renuva mattress recycling program. So can you give us an insight into this program and how well received was it in the region, and what were some of the takeaways from the program?
Mm-hmm. Sure. So look, I think this is a great example of the collaboration across the whole value chain. Just to summarize for everyone, so Renuva is looking to chemically recycle polyurethane foam from post-consumer mattresses in collaboration with the value chain. Now, what we will recover back is the polyol with recycled content, which then can be used to create the new materials. I think Frederic was mentioning the French EPR schemes, and that was one of the reasons really why Renuva is happening today in France. Because it does take a long time to look at where is the waste available as a new feedstock. And you asked me about the challenges we had across the Renuva program. So I would try to summarize them in main 4. First, it does take a lot of time to actually implement something like this, because it's not only about the technology, it's not only about recycling something, it's really having the whole value chain together. That really brings me to the second, the value chain complexity. None of the company can do it alone. So it does require collaboration across the whole value chain. And we need to create the new markets for the new polyols. The third, technological, of course, it's the first time we are looking at post-consumer recycling of polyurethanes. But then really the major one where I think it's important that we move ahead and hopefully we will all move ahead in the same direction so that the EPR schemes at some point will be synchronized across Europe and across countries so that, again, we need to have access to feedstock. If we want to put together truly the solutions for circular economy of mattresses, we have to make sure that first the waste is collected properly, it's sorted, dismantled, but then that back-end process is happening at a steady state so that we can really start implementing technologies to do something with the waste. So for me, it's important for the audience to remember that Renuva, it is really the beginning. We are piloting it in France. The plan will start in probably 4 months from now. But it is the beginning, and it's important that all the companies work together so that we can demonstrate to everyone that polyurethanes can be recycled.
Wonderful. I mean, definitely we'll be looking forward to that and seeing how the market kind of accepts this kind of a new concept and technology as well. So for those who have just joined us, I'd just like to give a quick recap. We've gathered here some very key insights into the various EPR schemes across the various markets in Europe as well as India and also Middle East and Africa as well. And also how the regions are kind of slowly accepting these schemes and being open to such initiatives. And they are kind of helping producers out there. So we do have one question that has come up, if any of the panelists would like to take it up, from Mr. David Gardner, who says that, is there any evidence that EPR is driving companies to investigate better design of products or therefore reduce the cost of recovery, reuse, or recycling? So let me just, if anyone would like to take up that question. So is there any evidence that EPR is driving companies to investigate better design of products and therefore reduce the cost of recovery, reuse, or recycling?
Yeah, no problem there. I can maybe start this discussion. It's indeed an interesting and a very good question. And I agree with Lucy that Ecomobilier has shown a very good result in installing some sort of a logistical process in collecting a lot of mattresses. We all know that, for example, only in Europe, 45 million mattresses are sold annually, and 40 million are being collected and disposed of every year. So that's a huge pile of mattresses that reaches the end of its life. And Ecomobilier has really done a very good job in creating that logistical process of collecting. But of course, it does not stop there. And I think the next step that has to be taken, and where many companies, many players in the supply chain are really working on, is really the idea of eco-design. How can eco-design fit in an EPR scheme? What needs to be done? And that's a crucial question where many players in the supply chain are focusing on. So that's, of course, a question that cannot be answered today. But of course, it's a crucial one, and we see a growing trend for the eco-design of mattresses.
If I may add. Apologies.
Yes, Ms. Lucy. Yeah.
I think it's absolutely, I agree completely. I think with the polyurethanes though, and especially with the mattresses, when we think about the use time anywhere between 7-15 years, I think it's important that we tackle all of the problems almost today. So we do have the question of the eco-design. So what do we do for the future so that in 10 years time, that will be much easier to recycle any mattress. But I still think we have to focus on the issue we are creating every day, or we have created 10 years ago when producing mattresses with different materials. I think it's important to focus on the two. And going back to the original question on some of the evidence, I think indeed in the Ecomobility's reports and the post, you will actually see that it's not only about collecting the money from the EPR scheme, but actually then looking for the ways and new markets to use the material, to use the materials they recover in. So I think when we talk about EPR schemes, I think it's important that we keep in mind that there should be more than just collecting the funding for the waste management, but then also looking at what's next and how to use that funding eventually to promote some of the other projects and look for the new markets.
Right. Thank you so much. I hope that
Yeah.
answers. Yes, Mr. Sanjay.
Yeah, in India also, efforts are being taken to redesign the mattress so it becomes eco-friendly, so that a lot of toxins are being reduced. So this point is kept in mind that after 5 or 7 years, when the mattress is returned, it is properly recycled without any harm to the society or to the material. So this is still a design stage, and it will take some time to show some evidence here.
Right. Thank you so much, Mr. David. I hope that answers your question. So moving on in the discussion, Mr. Sundaresan, I would like to bring you back into the discussion. What are some of the key things that one should keep in mind, when we're talking about circularity of mattress production?
Yeah. Circularity, see, as I said, first of all, you have to make awareness to the consumer that he should be ready to part with that. What we are trying to promote is that now that rolled on mattresses come, a mattress in a box. So whenever a new mattress is supplied, we are convincing the customer to return the mattress to the dealer where it is sold. So we are trying to tie up with an agency that he will go to all the dealers and collect all the mattress. So we are also trying to make the awareness through a webinar through all the dealer. See, it's as a federation, it's not possible to direct have a face with the consumers. So we will make awareness programs through webinar to our dealers and distributors and express this. And they will have an incentive that they don't have to throw it in anywhere or dump it outside, cause more inconvenience to neighbor or landfill. So these sort of efforts are being taken here in India.
Right. So we do have another question that has come up where he's talking about why are we still using PU foam to sleep on? I mean, are there no better circular alternatives? So would the panel would like to take that up? I think you were trying to answer it as well. So you can answer it.
As a polyurethane supplier, for me, it is, first, thanks for that question. But I do have to tell you, polyurethanes can be circular. And there's many reasons why we sleep on them. Just imagine we would now replace polyurethane with something else. You wouldn't solve the problem. Because what we need to focus on is building that waste collection and waste system so that everything we buy new, when we want to dispose the old mattress, that it can be disposed of responsibly. So that's number one. The waste infrastructure, the topic will stay the same, even if we now switch to super bio-circular material. But the second, that material doesn't exist, the ultimate material. So we have to work with what we have in our portfolio. And I still think polyurethanes have a place in the mattress industry. Because first, I will not want to go into detail, but of course the comfort properties they can deliver is very significant. And they can be circular. That's what we are trying to demonstrate with Renuva, that all that can be done. What's needed is to work as a value chain and to look how we can close the loop. Once the mattress has been used, how we can dispose it, dismantle it, and then put it back to the circular economy.
Right. Thank you so much. Anyone else would like to add to that?
So PU foam has been used, for a long time. And not only its comfort, it's also very good support. And people are used to have a very refreshing sleep on PU foam, on memory foam like that. Now, the only way to make it circular is to reduce the toxins inside and improve the quality of fire retardants and other chemicals in a systematic way, so the circularity is improved very quickly and in a very nice way. So efforts are being taken, and it takes some time to get it. Focus is fully made on for circularity of PU foam. Yeah.
Right. Thank you so much. Coming back to the discussion, we're talking here amidst the onset of the pandemic. And yes, there was a huge impact not only on the industry, but across the region. And not only business-wise, but it also kind of made us reflect, about the nature, about the environment as a whole. So can each one of you give some insight into, some of the key lessons or the changes that you observed in the market, especially post the onset of this pandemic? And also, if you've seen a kind of increase or change in the way people approach EPR now. Mr. Frederick, if you would like to start.
Yeah, we see in Europe, in many European countries, an increasing uptake of EPR. In many countries, authorities are thinking about it. European Commission is really putting pressure on the European member state to think about DSU, and it has really, as said in my introduction, it really has indicated that an EPR scheme is an efficient way for waste management. So there is an increasing pressure. What is important for us representing the European industry is that we are not seeing 27, 28 or even more different EPR schemes that are not aligned. What is important for us, many of our companies are active on 2, 3, 4, 5 or even more markets. So at least the systems that are being installed in every different market needs to be very similar. We're very pleased with the experiences that Ecomobilier have shown us, that Valumat in Belgium is showing us. And we want to learn from the lessons and from the mistakes they made. And that's why within EBIA we have been discussing to develop some sort of a blueprint of an EPR scheme that could be developed. And that's a project that we are going to undertake over the next couple of weeks and months. We as an industry, as a European industry, would like to develop a blueprint of an EPR scheme, of course, with the flexibility to adapt to different local circumstances, because waste collection system, for example, in southern part of Europe is not the same as in northern part or in east or west. So we need a harmonized EPR scheme that allows for a certain flexibility depending on the local markets, and that's something which is for us quite important.
Right. And Ms. Lucy, if you would like to give us your...
So if I look at the 1-year anniversary for many of us at the home office with the start of the pandemic, I think that we do see the two mega trends kind of evolving. Of course, the digitalization has accelerated rapidly, and I think we can all relate to it. But unsurprisingly for me, but for some probably surprisingly, the sustainability has also picked up. So I think overall we do see acceleration in terms of sustainability from the private companies, from the governments, from our customers, from the brand owners, or even consumers. And I need to say that for us at Dow, how the pandemic affected us, of course, it was the digitalization, the massive speed to reinvent and then come up with the new tools and the new ways to do a business. But then in terms of sustainability, it was last year during the pandemic where Dow has stepped up and really announced new targets. If it's about becoming carbon neutral, but also just to focus on the 3 areas which will need to address. It's the safer materials, it's the circular economy, and climate protection. And also the renewal program actually was all announced and started during the pandemic. So we went last year saying we are moving forward. The plant is being built. under the conditions which are difficult, where the cross-border travels in Europe are very restrictive. But we are still on time, and I think it's a demonstration that when we collaborate truly across the value chain, across the companies, and find the new ways to make things happen, we can make a progress.
Right, thank you. And Mr. Sundaresan, would you like to share your input as well?
Yeah. See, as I said earlier, there is no funding from the government for EPR schemes, but it is being monitored and regulated in other areas. For example, they are focusing firstly on plastics. You see, those defaulting companies are being punished with huge fines. For example, Hindustan Coca-Cola was given a fine of 50 crores, and Mr. Bisleri Company 10.75 crores, Pepsi Cola 8.7 crores for violating the recycling scheme. The positive part is that the government has sent this circular to all the municipalities that they should create the awareness for the recycling, for the circularity. Even every school, government people go and give instruction and guideline how the plastic should be avoided, how the circularity should be improved. So these kind of steps are being taken by the government, and actually we don't get any funding for the process as of now. So we hope that by proactively doing something, the government will get impressed in the days to come.
Great, thank you so much. My next question goes out to you, Mr. Frederick, and to you, Ms. Lucy. Do you see that there is a need for manufacturers to look into a kind of a new business ecosystem in order to aid, further circular economy, especially in view?
Yes, absolutely. The pressure on the industry comes from all sides, as said. It's not only from the consumers, but also authorities. But let's not forget that also companies themselves are very keen on eco-design. When it was still possible, were visiting the different fairs around Europe, all companies were highlighting circular mattresses. So inevitably, it will never go away, and eco-design is a trend that is here to stay, and that will even increase.
I absolutely agree. I think it is very critical that the mattress manufacturers or the foam manufacturers do look for the new ways to build a new business ecosystem, because we all like to talk about circular economy, but I really believe that we can implement it by really having the new ways of doing business and collaborating across the value chain, because we will not get around without having people who can collect and manage waste. We will not get around without having the new technologies. We will need to use the application knowledge, the testing to make sure that the new markets and new technologies exist. And then, of course, we will need the mattress manufacturers or the foamers, because in the end, you need to be part of that process to make sure, to help us to communicate the message to the end market, but also to help then the companies like Dow to develop new technologies and the second and next generation of the post-consumer recycled content in the formulations. So I really think it is not up to one company. It is not just up to foamers. It's not up to brand owners or chemical companies. It is really collaborating all of us together so that we can make a circular mattress a reality.
Right. Let's get into one of the questions as well that has come up, where Mr. David, again, who's talking about that there is a huge use of mattresses in the public sector, examples like hospital, prisons, and also the private sectors like hotels. So does circularity look better in these sectors? And if not, are governments or large private sectors doing enough? So would anyone like to take up this question?
In Europe, we have the growing tendency on green public procurements. European authorities and national and regional authorities are increasing their efforts when there is a public tender that products need to comply with certain requirements. So yes, of course, a lot is going on. It's a huge market. So yes, there is work ongoing, and that will only continue. We have the European Commission will be revising its green public procurement requirements over the next couple of months, and it will also work on revising the eco label for bed mattresses that is existing, but which is not having the success Commission was aiming for.
Right. Anyone else would like to add to this?
I think Frederick covered it pretty well.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Great. I think there is one more question. I think it's addressed to you, Ms. Susie. If you would want to take it up, let me just say, Mr. Jack, he is curious about how many recycled polyurethane can we already use in combination with virgin polyol as a percentage?
I think this is the excellent question, but I would like to ask a different question for a very obvious reason. It is still a very small amount. We are just starting, and the amount of virgin polyols or virgin polyols and isocyanates being produced compared to the recycling one, which Renua will enable, of course, it's a very small percentage. But the real question I think we should be really asking ourselves is, how much of the waste we can repurpose and reuse thanks to those initiatives. In case of Renua, it's at capacity more than or up to 200,000 mattresses per year. With the one plant we have installed in France, we can reuse the material already used for those 200,000 mattresses. I think it's important that we look at it from both directions. Of course, we need to improve the circularity, but we also have to address the waste we have today.
Sure. Thank you so much. So let's get back to the discussion. Of course, I encourage the audience to post in your questions since we're almost coming towards the end of the discussion. Now, there's been so much being spoken about internally, within each of the region. However, I believe there are a lot of producers who can do by sourcing out products from various raw material suppliers as well. So, which is kind of a primary reason we as Sleep Expo has kind of initiated this platform as a show, so that we're able to bring forth these kind of initiatives between suppliers and producers and take that up. So I want to ask you all, especially regarding to the future of cross trade, especially with Middle East manufacturers and other markets, what do you feel and it is going and where it is headed? Mr. Frederick, if you would like to share your input.
Yeah, when we take a look at imports into the European market from outside the EU 27 or 28, we see that imports have increased over the last 5 years with about 40%. Even in 2020, we see an increase of about 13% compared to 2019. So there is an increasing import. What we do, however, see when we take a look at import statistics in Europe is that there is a shift, or there seems to be a shift in imports. In the past, European Union imported a lot of mattresses from Norway, US, Switzerland, and there on those countries we see that imports have been either stagnating or even decreasing, while from other countries like China, Turkey, even Serbia, imports are increasing. So trade is important, and what we in Europe are also wondering, we all know that the US market has installed anti-dumping duties on imports from certain markets, and it needs to be seen what will be the impact on the global market. Where will that production go to? Will it come to Europe? Will it be destined, or will it be aiming at a domestic market? So there are quite some interesting evolutions that need to be followed.
Right. And Mr. Sundaresan, would you like to give in your
Yeah.
inputs as well?
Yeah, see, imports are quite negligible, not very much in India. Indigenously, the production is quite high. With regard to circularity, many of our members have done a lot of trials. You see, they have brought the old mattress, polyurethane foam, and they have mixed with other material. They have laid roads, and the used foam has been made into carpet underlays. So many different products. We made insulation boards like that for insulation purpose. So different application are being tried, so that the one thing is the energy resources are being recovered. Then employment potential is also increased. Some sort of due efforts are being taken. Many of our members, and it's very encouraging that circularity will come very nicely in the days to come. Yeah.
Thank you. And Ms. Lucy?
And maybe just to add to it, I think it's an interesting point to take that question you ask about the cross-market trades and look at it in terms of circular economy. So we all like to close the perfect circles from one product to the next, but I do think that the future of the cross markets in a circular economy will actually be really keeping the materials in use as long as possible, and really completely designing out waste. So that means that it shouldn't be a problem for anyone in the industry or even the consumers to be using a product which is not completely mattress to mattress. But if it's a mattress to rigid foam or a mattress to carpet underlay, I think it still contributes to the same principles of avoiding waste, going to incineration and landfill. And I think it's important that we come up with these interesting, clever ideas and innovations on how we can repurpose and reuse some of the waste we have generated in the past, so that we can make a meaningful impact.
Right. Thank you so much for that insight as well. We do have a couple of questions. We have someone, Mr. Anurag, who has asked, expanded polyurethane foam, what are your views for replacing PU foam mattresses? Would anyone want to take that? I think it's in the chat box, then the question.
I can maybe just give it a try. I think it is, of course, one of the ideas. It's good that many of the innovations are coming to the mattress industry. If we look at it from the point of view of circularity of mattresses, it will go back to the point, what do we do after 10 years of that mattress has been used? Is there recycling and waste management schemes which can take that mattress and then really recycle it responsibly? So I think we should evaluate these technologies as a system. So of course, from the performance, from the life, from the comfort and support they deliver during the sleep. But if we talk about mattress circularity, if we don't do anything about the waste management systems and the technologies to recycle, this will not help us.
Right. And we also have another question that has come up, says, does the use of recycled polyurethane in new mattresses have an impact on the quality of the developed foam? And in the Netherlands, we know that we can use a maximum of 25% of recycled material. So are there any developments in the increase of this number?
So look, today what we are looking at with the Renuva program is, of course, we don't want to impact any of the properties of the foam. So we have managed to replace the standard polyol with 30% of the polyol with recycled content without any influence on the final foam properties. And you ask if there are any developments to increase this number. Of course. This is just the start. So as I said, we are starting up the plant in France in June, and from there we do hope we will learn. We will prove that polyurethanes can be recycled, that they can be circular. And the next step, of course, is then to increasing that number of replacement, so that we can look at more circular mattress as the new, not only recycling the old one.
Right. Great. And with that, I think we've come to quite an end to our interesting session. But definitely, I would like to ask our panelists if you have any closing remarks before we end the session. Mr. Frederick?
Okay, it was a very interesting topic, and I think the conclusion for us is that EPR is a topic that will not go away, and we need the whole supply chain to be active on it. It's not one supplier or one player in the whole supply chain that can change the situation. We need the manufacturers, we need even distribution, we need suppliers, we need collection services, we need recyclers. It's the whole supply chain that needs to be active, and I'm very pleased to see that there is increasing awareness in all the players in the supply chain.
Right. And Mr. Sundaresan, would you have any closing remarks?
Yeah. See, overall, throughout the world, US is leading in the recycling of the mattress, and then followed by Australia. So, India being a very large production, all our stakeholders are committed to this, and we are focusing how best we can use a good raw material, which is circularity, and how to make the consumers aware of this. And a lot of steps are being taken, and we are sure that we will follow. Europe is already leading, so we are slightly behind that. And definitely, it's very encouraging that we have learned a lot of new things. Technology is going on, how to improve the circularity, and I'm sure that India will do very well in the days to come.
And Miss Lucy?
Well, first of all, thank you for organizing this kind of webinars and for having a chance to discuss with the industry and also cross-check and exchange between the regions. I do share the same opinions as well already mentioned. I really think that EPR schemes can be one of the tools to make sure that there is sufficient waste management systems when it comes to dealing with the waste mattresses. But absolutely none of the companies, it will not be just the EPR schemes, it will not be the brand owners or the consumers or the foam manufacturers. It's really all up to us to work together and be creative in a ways to make a mattress fully circular.
Right. I think you couldn't have said it any better. I mean, Rome wasn't built in a day, was it? So I'm glad that, people are taking those steps, and people like you who are experts in your various markets are doing so much to take that message out there. I think it's a very informed decision that a producer has to make for himself, for the organization, and for the environment in totality. So thank you again to all you panelists for coming out here and giving your insights and bringing forth such sustainable measures for producers and manufacturers to take alive. So I do hope that this platform has helped all of you who have attended this discussion, and it kind of helps you take that step towards a more sustainable future. So in case you need any more information about this discussion, or even about our show, the Sleep Expo Middle East, or any of the co-located shows that is set to take place in October this year in Dubai, you can visit our website. We will leave the link for you in the chat box. So we'd love to hear back from you. So do keep in touch with us, and we have a lot more unique innovation and approaches that we will be discussing in the coming months. Thank you again, and do have a good day and stay safe.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you. Thanks a lot.